Okay, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the UCD Quinn School of Business Virtual Open Evening. My name is Aoife Doherty, and I'm the moderator for this evening's session. And this evening, we're going to take a look at two of our programs. One of our very long-standing program, which is the history as far back as 1908, and that's the Bachelor of Commerce program, and also our Commerce International, which is our business and language program. So that's what we're going to take a talk through this evening. I'm joined by a number of panelists from around the school and from our student body. So this afternoon, joining us is Dr. Julie Byrne. Julie is the director of the Bachelor of Commerce program, and she is also a lecturer in the finance area. We're also joined by Sean Cassidy, who is a lecturer in the management area with a focus on and an interest in global business. And Sean is also the academic director for the Commerce International program. Two colleagues from the Quinn School office, which are the areas that support the programs and the delivery in the school, are with us this afternoon. So Niall Hayes is the program manager for the Bachelor of Commerce, and Laura Borghetti is the program manager for Commerce International. So they have a lot of experience and expertise to share with us this afternoon. And of course, it is always vitally important to get the student voice and to hear what students have to say about their program and their reflection. So this afternoon, we're joined by Liam Schmidt from the Bachelor of Commerce. Liam is in stage 4 of the BCom and has just returned from an internship placement in Irish Funds. I'm sure Liam will tell us a little bit more about that. And also with us is Daria Barzenova, and I'm sorry, Daria, if I got that wrong. Daria is from the Commerce International program, and Daria has returned from an exchange year in Paris, in ECSP in Paris. And I know Daria is going to talk to us a little bit about that. So before we start, I'm just going to go through the operation or the running of this afternoon. We're going to have a chat. We've around 45 minutes together to have a chat. The academic program directors are going to give us a quick whistle stop overview of the programs, and then we're going to open up for questions. So on our UCD Quinn School website, there's a lot of resource material. We have a lot of videos if you want to take a look. We have prospectuses, we have testimonials. So there's a lot of material there. So we're not going to waste our precious time together repeating that. We really want this to be open and interactive with you. We want to give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. So I'm going to kick off and I'm going to pass over to Dr. Julie Byrne, and Julie is going to give us a quick guide through the Bachelor of Commerce program.
Hey, thank you, Aoife. You're all very welcome to this webinar. So I'll just briefly discuss the Bachelor of Commerce program here at UCD. I understand, given your attendance at the webinar, that you have at least some interest in business. And so the Commerce program is a general business degree, and it gives you knowledge of all the different areas in business. So, for example, early on in the program, you learn the foundations of things like accounting and economics. You have to take a little bit of maths, and I'm sure there'll be questions about that after, which I would be delighted to answer. But the maths that you take is just to provide you with the skills to equip you moving forward when things get a little more complicated. And if you want to go into the quantitative areas, which you very may well not want to do. Some of the students do and some don't. So the idea behind the Bachelor of Commerce program is so critical thinking. You look at all sides of the arguments to come up with a solution, see how all the various business disciplines are linked. In second year, we delve a little bit deeper from the broad principles you'll have learned. And then in final year, up to you entirely if you want to specialize or if you want to keep it pretty broad. So we use technology a lot. We've got brilliant facilities in Quinn on our new More Learning. We've got absolutely excellent spaces, and that allows you to really get in-depth understanding and learn in lots of different ways. So we have lots of different opportunities as well. What you get out of college is what you put into it, but we have lots of opportunities in Quinn, as the current final year students will tell you. For example, you have the opportunity to study abroad in one of our partner universities. Lots of the students take that opportunity. So within Europe, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. Students travel all around, spend a trimester to broaden their horizons. There's also a very popular internship program between the second and final year, which again, a lot of students undertake. And again, Liam will give you much better knowledge and understanding of what takes place in the internship program. So when you come back, if you go on internship, you will have learned a lot, and you will probably have a better idea of exactly what you want to be when you leave. So I'm sure Liam probably has a better idea. I think you might be finance, Liam, not quite sure. But in final year then, if you wish, you can specialize. So if you really, really like accounting, you can choose lots of the accounting modules. If you really liked marketing before, you can specialize in the marketing modules, but you absolutely don't need to. The other thing that I highly recommend in terms of the commerce is take the opportunities that are presented to you. So get involved in things, not just within the school, but within the university as well. It allows you to meet lots and lots of people from various different backgrounds. And the whole idea about colleges, they really should be the best years of your life. The Bachelor of Commerce program is enjoyable, but it is also challenging. So you need to treat it as such, take all of the opportunities, and you really, really enjoy the experience. For those of you who are interested in business, I suggest that you follow the news, because what is going on in the world is incredibly important, especially for a small open economy like Ireland. So how well our economy does is very, very linked with globally what's going on. So keep a close eye on the news and what's going around, because that will affect what's going on, what you learn. Other things to take into account is that things we're moving towards, all those kind of things are going to shape how business moves in the future. And you will be lucky enough in UCD to be taught by experts in their fields who are all active researchers, so we'll be able to share that knowledge with you of what's going on at the moment. So I think that's a brief, you said whistle stop.
Yep.
Is that whistle stop enough?
Super, that is great. Thank you so much, Julie. Okay. We were losing you a little bit there, but hopefully you can join back in. If we have any questions, anything that we missed, we might pick up there again. So thanks so much, Julie. So I'm going to hand over the next slide to Dr. Sean Cassidy, who is the Commerce International Program Director. Sean, over to you.
Good evening, everybody. And I think a lot of what Julie has said, I can reiterate. What immediately comes to mind is just to keep your minds open to what is happening in the world, to understand that Ireland is a cog in the global economy. And in a sense, this feeds directly into the whole idea of doing a Bachelor of Commerce International. Obviously, it's explicit that the language component is important here, but when we think about this degree, it is a major in business and a minor in language. Nonetheless, there are perhaps two different types of students that might be attracted to this particular program. A student who is interested in doing business on the one hand, but would like a language component with all that entails. On the other hand, it could be a student who is focused very much on language, but wouldn't it be good to have some business background as well? So it tends to be two different types of students that are initially attracted to doing the Commerce International degree. Some of the points that are mentioned here, of course, are issues relating to how long the program is. In comparison to the BCom, you have an extra year. It's a 4-year degree program. The 3rd year is the year abroad. It's a kind of a capstone, and you become registered in the business school of the country with respect to the language of your choice. So that could be in Milan, it could be in Beijing, it could be Frankfurt, Madrid, wherever internationally. Now, just one or two specifics. Pretty much students in terms of language background, if you have no background in language, you can start from scratch, with the exception of French. The expectation is that you have a higher 4, I think it is, with regard to the French language. But some of the key things that you actually develop over the duration of this particular degree program is the whole idea of multicultural competencies, the complexity that is, obviously language skills, cultural sensitivity and reflectiveness, and last but not least, of course, business knowledge. When we think about which particular type of employers are you pitching yourselves to? And it's probably a little bit broader than the BCom, because in a sense, implicitly, we're thinking about multinationals, and the multinationals maybe American multinationals in Ireland on the one hand, but if you're thinking specifically about your languages, it could be German multinationals or French, or it could indeed be Chinese multinationals, okay? By the same token, it could be institutions. So, for example, if you've got language capabilities, perhaps you're interested in working with the Ministry for Foreign Affairs. Perhaps you're interested in working with the IDA Enterprise Ireland. There are any number of other potential institutional sides of things that you might be willing to pursue as well. But the point is that it provides you with many potential lateral opportunities with respect to career development. Would there be anything else I can add to that? I think in a sense that's probably captured as much as I can say.
No, I think that is a great summary, Sean, and I'm just going to stop sharing our slides now so we'll all be back together on screen. I think that was a really useful run through. Thank you so very much. And I might just remind attendees that we have a Q&A function on your screen. If you'd like to ask us a question, please do so. Pop it in the Q&A and I'll get to them and ask the panelists if that's okay. But I might just start, and you kind of touched on it there, Sean. This is for a question for Sean and Julie, and it's one that students ask a lot. And that is about the core differences between the BCom and the Commerce International. So I don't know who'd like to take that. Julie, would you give us your thoughts on that?
Sure. So as Sean mentioned, the Commerce International is always a 4-year program. So the Commerce program is a 3-year program, but it is optional to turn it into a 4-year program with the internship opportunity. So while the Commerce International students spend a year abroad, a lot of the commerce students will spend a year on internship. So that's one of the differences. Another one of the differences is that the commerce students, their degree is all in business with the exception of the Horizon electives, and they will end up by having a wider selection of options in final year in terms of the business aspect. Then the Commerce International guys, they come out with the culture of the languages that they choose to study, as well as literature, that kind of side of the languages. So a lot of the classes you will have in common. So a lot of things are core across our programs. So you will get the same fundamental business concepts. It's just how you choose the direction you take is where the differences arise. But the main difference is you can do a year-long internship with Commerce and you spend a year studying abroad with Commerce International. But then Commerce International they can choose to take summer internships, and the commerce guys can choose to study a semester abroad. But if they study for a trimester abroad, they are taught through English. That's very important, the commerce.
And one of the questions that's come in, Julie, which is a common question that we get is the business part of the BCom International reduced to accommodate the language compared to just doing the BCom? So that's what we're getting to, that the structure of the program varies. In the Bachelor of Commerce program, there are 10 business modules every year and some free choices. But in the Commerce International, there are 6 business modules and 4 language. Sean, is there anything else you'd like to add to that, the difference between the Commerce International and the BCom? You're on mute, Sean.
Right. Logically, 2/3 of a student's time is spent in the School of Business, 1/3 of a student's time is spent in the School of Languages. Obviously, it's a kind of a dual degree, even though business is the major and language is the minor. Accordingly, students will have to be very selective with regard to the actual business subjects they can choose. And in a sense, I have to defer to both Laura and indeed Daria, based on her experience, just to be very specific with regard to the potential differences in terms of what you need to focus on from an early stage, from stage 1 in Commerce International in comparison to the BCom. And perhaps, Daria, what would you say about that?
I think since Commerce International is a 1/3 based on language and 2/3 on business, you still get the insights of the business path career, plus you get the international background. I will never regret of picking Commerce International because it gave me that insight of the international background and also learning a language and learning the culture. So it's a very good mix, I believe.
Daria, can I ask
career.
you to think back to when you were in the same boat that our attendees are this afternoon? So you're in fifth year or sixth year, you're thinking about career paths ahead, and you have, you know, 1,000 options on the CAO to pick. What was it about the Commerce International that drew you to it? And Liam, I'm going to ask you the same question as well, to reflect back and go, what was it that made you pick this program? And has it lived for you up to its expectations?
Back in the days, I remember just being very confused, didn't know what to do. But if I think now, I really liked business and French. So this is what basically I'm doing now. I'm studying now. I picked my best subjects in school, and I always wanted to have to do something related, like something with languages, something with an international background. So that's why I picked business with French.
Excellent.
And do not regret this choice.
Good to hear. Liam, was it the same for you? What was your thought process when you were filling out your CAO 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, similarly, I was doing my Leaving Cert and I knew I wanted to do business of some sort. I'd choose business and economics for the Leaving Cert, but I didn't know how to specify. I kind of knew I wanted to do marketing-ish, but I kind of didn't want to kind of put all my eggs in one basket and commit to marketing degree. So I thought I'd choose a broader degree, which with an option to kind of specialize down the line. And definitely Quinn and Commerce, for example, came up as the prime option for me. I lived in Dublin and I was thinking like there's like elements of finance I was interested in, kind of stock trade sort of thing. I thought I'd like, and I found out like kind of the execution when you actually study it isn't for me. So kind of coming into that. But kind of getting the opportunity to test all the different areas of incomes, I think was really beneficial, that I definitely took a lot from.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Liam. Liam, will you tell us a little bit about your internship and how that worked for you and what the process is in the Quinn School in terms of securing an internship?
Sure, yeah. I'll start with the process and I'll do it chronologically. I'll go through it. I have a funny story about internship, actually. I did my interviews in March 2020. So it was right before COVID happened. I managed to do 2. So basically you apply for a five internships. You can take any 5 off the list of, I think we had 70 or 75 roles available with multiple people per role often. A huge wide variety of opportunities to join internships across a wide variety of companies, anyone from like the Big 4 to Microsoft and Johnson & Johnson and Mars and all these incredible companies offering roles across any variety of, from sales to marketing, accounting and operations management, all sorts. So we kind of had a huge list we could pick any 5 from. And then I sent my CV in, sent a personal letter in. I was offered 5 interviews. I was very lucky to be offered 5 interviews. I did 2 in person and then, oh my God, and then 2 online actually on Zoom, the very, very first beginnings of Zoom in March 2020. And I happened to be offered the Irish Funds one. So I work for Irish Funds and my role would be events communications intern. Irish Funds are a trade association who represent the financial services industry in Ireland. They advocate for policy and work with the central bank on one side of the business. They kind of help education and training in the financial services industry. And also they work promotionally for events and networking events. And that's where I started in. I was the events and communications intern. I worked on the business development team. It was actually quite a small company. It's only 16 people. So I genuinely, as one of 16 people, I felt like a really genuine team member, very much meaningful work. You were very much were treated. And that can be said for every company. I've heard loads of different friends on internships who kind of felt the same about how small and big the company is. In this program, you really are treated like a genuine employee. You're there for 9 to 12 months. There's none of this kind of like making teas and coffees kind of typical intern rubbish. It's genuinely a fantastic opportunity. I got to work on some really incredible events as my role. Unfortunately, they were all online the year that was in it. But I still got to work with like some incredible speakers. Like we had 2 annual conferences every year with 500 attendees of those. We got to see everything from start to finish of the process, which is what I personally found most interesting was the planning stages 9 months earlier. Like we booked our location 13 months before. Like you kind of see the whole process throughout the thing, the whole build up, and then on the day it's fulfilling to see it go through and go super well. Like we had like Alistair Campbell's the speaker of Irish, and John Thomas is the CEO of Northern Trust. We had huge big name speakers and many attendees. And yeah, I had a great time. I actually am lucky enough that I'm actually going to go back and go to an event of theirs next month. They're bringing me to London, which I'm honored to be.
And it's a good way to engage and network with companies using the internship opportunity and to set yourself up thinking about your graduate placement or where you'll go when you finish your degree. But the Commerce International program, Daria, you are back from a year out from Quinn as well, but you were studying in Paris. So will you tell us a little bit about your opportunity abroad?
Yeah, I'm happy to share like my experience in Paris, which was one of the best experiences, if not the best, that I got from UCD. And I did not have any doubts about going to Paris because UCD was giving me this opportunity to go to Paris, one of the beautiful cities in the world. So I had to take it. And basically what you do is you go in one of the best business schools in Paris or France, actually Europe, and study in France. And it was a master course. So there were older people, and it was amazing the way like all the lectures were like very specific to some like business areas. So in third year, I already kind of knew what I wanted to specialize in. So I could study those specific subjects through French. And so I could also improve my language skills and cultural skills. And it was very hard at the beginning. It was hard to adapt, but the results and what you get out of this are incredible because you don't just learn a language or like how to cope with a different culture. You learn how to, it's an experience that you have to get out of your comfort zone and just live a different life, a parallel life within in a new culture and using a different language. And it was just awesome, incredible.
That's super positive, Daria. Thanks so much. And of course, it's a challenge, but I guess as for Liam heading off into the internship, you have to step into the challenge and know that the 2 years in the Quinn School will prepare you for the challenge ahead. But studying and learning in a foreign language is quite a challenge. And we know that because we see international students joining us in Quinn. But Daria, there's a question here that I might put to you, and Sean and Lara can jump in as well, if you like. This is a student is asking, what is the purpose of studying 2 languages in semester 1 in the BCIT? If you can remember back to when you joined, you studied 2 languages. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yep, I picked French because that was my strongest language. In fact, you need some knowledge of French before going to Commerce International with French. It's the only language when you're required to have some knowledge already of the language. The other languages you can start from a beginning level. And I picked Spanish because I already studied Spanish in school for a few months. I had some understanding of it, and I still didn't know what language to pick as my main language with my business degree. So that was a good chance to understand. Maybe I would have loved to do Spanish instead than French, and going to Spain for my 3rd year. But I understood at that time that I had more knowledge of French and I enjoyed more French and French culture rather than the Spanish one. But it was a good opportunity to have this comparison before making your definitive choice.
So it's added flexibility, so you don't have to confirm one language, you can choose. And Lara, over the past few years, we've introduced a new option for students that they don't actually have to take the 2, they can take 1 language should they choose.
Yeah, so as Daria said, the purpose of having 2 languages from the start is that you get to sense which one you want to continue with. So you have have a flavor of both languages and then decide which one you want to continue with. But if there are students that are concerned about having to take 2 languages at the same time, or they are they know from the start which language they want to pick, then they have the option in most of the languages to keep just the 1 from the start. So they have an alternative culture module instead of the 2nd language in the 1st trimester. But generally students do pick the two languages. They are happy, and some students actually continue on to some degree with the second language through their elective module. So there's some students that actually like the language side of things, and they actually continue on with the two languages throughout the degree.
Thanks, Laura. You've mentioned something there that I think we've referred to before, and it might be helpful to expand a little bit on that. You mentioned electives. So Niall, can I turn to you and ask you to tell us a little bit about electives, and then we might ask Liam and Daria to talk about what they have picked as electives and how that has worked for them over the course of their degree.
Of course. So say in commerce anyway, you have over the 3 years of the program that you're studying with us, you do 5 electives, and they range from, you can choose from within the school or you can choose from within the university. So they give you a really great chance to kind of, if you're, I don't know, if you're doing business but you've a real interest in English, you can pick a module in English. Or if you're history, you can do like anything from Nazi Germany 1939 to 1945 or the USSR. You can, and for those students who really like languages but decide not to do BCom International, they can also choose some language modules as well. So as I said, you do 5 over the 3 years that you're here. So you can do 1 in stage 1, which you choose in the second semester, and then you have 2 modules each in stage 2 and final year.
So it's a free choice throughout your degree. So Liam and Daria, could you tell us a little bit about what you picked and why you picked certain modules throughout your degree?
Sure, yeah, I actually really relished the opportunity. In first year, I chose, obviously studying commerce, I was like, I like movies. So I was like, when else are you going to get the opportunity? So I studied film, style, and aesthetics in first year. I was kind of, after first year, kind of like, you realize the GPA does count your GPA, so kind of take it more conservative. So after kind of really going left field with film style, I kind of took it back to, I chose a politics module, capitalism and democracy was what I chose in second year, and I chose social entrepreneurship. So I kind of brought it back to like modules outside of the realm of commerce, but kind of very much overlapping with bits I found interesting through my course.
So they complement your studies. They're not entirely different, which is a really interesting route to take. And I like that idea that in first year, you go as broad as you possibly want, and then you're refined by second year and final year. Daria, was it the same for you?
I picked French, like a French elective as well for my first elective in first year, to have a deeper understanding of French culture. I picked reading French prose. Even though we already had like a literature compulsory French module, I picked an extra one because I was very interested in. And second year, I picked macroeconomics or macroeconomics because it was not a compulsory module for Commerce International, because I really I kind of enjoyed the microeconomics in semester 1. So semester 2, I picked macroeconomics.
Super. So all very related and very entwined with your studies, which is a good approach to take as well. We have some questions coming in, and there's a couple on admissions asking about points and will the points rise next year. I think we need a magic ball to see into the future. We couldn't answer that question. We don't know. We really don't know where points will go. We know that for the BCom, it ended on 554 this year, and for Commerce International, it was 554 as well. So they were roughly the same. So I don't think we can provide any more clarity on that right now. And some students are asking about the difference between BCom and business. Julie or Sean, what's in a name, BCom or business?
As in what? Well, commerce is just it's a historical name. So the newer, more modern programs will probably have the name business in it. But commerce is just it's historical, and you tend to see it in certain countries, including ours and Australia. The term commerce is quite whatever. So it is a business degree. There's not really anything different other than the name. Oftentimes you'll hear new programs being developed and they sound very, very modern and trendy and things, but they're all business programs nonetheless.
Thanks, Julie. Sean?
Yeah,
Is there anything else?
I think Julie has captured it there. I have my father, ringing in my ears. He did a BCom and an MCom, and he used to always remind us as children that he had a BCom and an MCom, So yeah, it's very traditional, of course. It has a certain cachet because it's traditional. Bottom line, it's a business degree.
Yeah, and I will say we won't change the name of it because it is the flagship program and it is so historical and so linked to UCD that even though lots of other things will change their name, the BCom is so well recognised that we're sticking with.
Thanks, Julie, and apologise for my coughing interlude there. I can see another question. I think we might ask Liam and Daria this again to see what they think about this. The question is, what kind of students thrive in UCD? And I think that's an interesting question. And I think the way I would be thinking about it is, what does it take to thrive in UCD? Because I'm a firm believer that it is open for and accessible for everybody. And we do like to see a broad range and diversity in our classrooms. But I think there are a couple of tips and things that you have to think about to thrive. And I think your social environment and your engagement with clubs and societies, group work with your peers are some of the things that really help to strengthen your opportunities and your ties and your time in UCD. But Liam and Daria, I'd be interested to hear what you think about that, what it takes to thrive in UCD.
Yeah, sure. I think there's a difference. There's commerce and there's UCD. So I'd say for commerce, especially to begin with, I think really just to give it your all, I'd say is the one main thing I have advice on. Let's apply for UCD, but time management is one thing as well. I think that I'd mention is just like in terms of thriving, balancing everything, because there'll be nights out, there'll also be projects due, there'll also be essays and different types with some teams, some on your own, kind of balancing going to lectures and tutorials, balancing all of that, I think is a key thing. And being enthusiastic is something I'd say, kind of getting the most of it, showing up, being interested. For UCD as a whole, I'd say, yeah, there's a slogan that the societies have, which is #get involved, and people kind of make a bit of a joke out of it, but I mean it with all my heart, that like getting involved is the key thing. One of the big benefits I found in having UCD being the biggest university in Ireland is the facilities are phenomenal, and there is everything you could ever want in this place. Like there's 4 gyms. I've learned this recently, not 2. There's 4 gyms. There's a million different things you get on. The societies are there's such a wide variety, about 70 plus, I think. They're all well funded. They all organize so many different events. I think that there's room for every single person in the whole of any interest, any spectrum of interest to get involved in something meaningful.
So #get involved. That is a good motto, Liam. Daria, would you agree? Have you joined any interesting clubs or societies, or what would your advice be for thriving in UCD and on your program of study?
I absolutely agree with Liam as in you have to be enthusiastic in everything you do. And I had like UCD gives you a massive range of like societies and like non-academic activities to do as well. So it really depends also like what you put into it, and all your results like will depend on your commitment, not just the academic commitment, but your social commitment to societies, to talk to people, to socialize. That's what makes it a better experience, like whether it's academic or not. And UCD gives you this opportunity to do whatever you like. I find dance society, which is like something I did for many years, so I can continue my passion still in UCD, and so many other opportunities here, like to socialize and find friends and like people who like have the same passions as you do. So absolutely being enthusiastic like in everything you do. I think that's the...
You mentioned, Liam, that this is a big university, and it is the biggest university in Ireland. And sometimes the size can be a bit daunting for students, thinking that you're stepping in to a population of 20, 25,000 students. How did you overcome that when you joined?
Honestly, I think understanding that everyone feels that way is the key thing that I found was something that helped me meet people. Like I'm normally fairly introverted myself, fairly shy. It really did intimidate me the first day. There was a big long list of everyone's names, kind of what group you had to be involved in. But even that in itself let me go to a group of 12 people I could actually chat to. So like you begin from the start and everyone realizes in the same boat. It's rare some people know each other from secondary school, but it's rare you actually have good friends from secondary school. So you kind of do mix a whole big group of new people from Ireland, from abroad, from Dublin, from everywhere. So kind of being aware that everyone's in the same boat as yourself. I think societies are a great way of meeting people with common interests, or sports teams as well. There's every sport under the sun available in UCD as well. Stuff like that, to meet people with friends with similar interests. And then group projects as well. Commerce stood out to me. All my best friends are from group projects I've done in first year. And you kind of work together on a project, but you kind of chat around before and after. You might go out on a night out with them later, and definitely meet with them kind of throughout the years. So I think those are definitely three different parts that
so it's like the societies again. It's get involved, don't be afraid, and be aware that you're not the only one. Everybody is in the same boat, which I think is really helpful. I'm just keeping an eye on the questions here. And Niall, I'm going to turn to you if you don't mind, because there are some questions about the possibility for study abroad on the Bachelor of Commerce program. So could you tell us a little bit about the opportunities for study abroad on the BCom?
Yeah, so students in their second year of the program can study in one of our European partners, one of our Canadian, New Zealand, Australian, or Chinese partners, Hong Kong, and I think Singapore as well. So you have to have passed all of first year and have earned all 60 credits. So you do 12 modules in first year. They're all worth 5 credits. That's your 60 credits there. And there's a minimum GPA requirement as well. Depending on the number of applications versus the number of places, it may be competitive. And generally, places like Australia and Canada tend to be in demand. But it's a really great opportunity for students. It is done through English, as I think Aoife said earlier. And the students, it doesn't preclude them from applying for the internship either. A lot of students, obviously, the way things have gone now, interviews can be done online and stuff like that. So depending on where you are in the world, that shouldn't be an issue. And it's a really great opportunity for students just to go out and experience something different as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Niall. But we might flag that it's not, an exchange isn't the only way to have an international experience in the Quinn School, that we run lots of international competitions, case study competitions. We run buddy programs for international students and our domestic students to engage with language and support each other in language learning. So we have lots of other opportunities, including a study trip to London for students who are interested in a career in finance, summer school opportunities. So an exchange is just one of many opportunities. I know that somebody was querying whether it was competitive, and the answer is yes, it can be competitive, but there are lots of other opportunities available as well. Lara, can I turn to you and Sean maybe? We have a query about what a timetable looks like. So could you give us a quick run through on what an average timetable, or how many hours I think is generally what students are interested in, an average timetable comprises of?
Yeah, sure. So generally, the students will take 6 modules every trimester, 5 credit modules, as Niall said. It's the same for the BCIT, 60 credits in each stage. On average, usually you would have 2 hours, either lectures or lectures and a tutorial per module. And a 5 credit module, generally it's comprised of your teaching hours, which are those 2-3 hours per week. And then the work that you have to do on your own, it might be like the essays, like the study that you have to do, group work, etc. So roughly, and this is a very general guide. It depends also on the student. Like you might need more time for certain modules or less for other ones. In general, you were talking maybe tops 100 hours per module. Roughly, as I said, it depends. Like you might be very, very good at maths and you get it done quickly. You might be very, very good at French, like Daria, and you get it done quickly. And you might need more effort. It depends on the student and your background and your skill.
It's all about keeping things in balance. I'm aware now that we're coming to the close shortly, and there are some questions here that I'd still like to get through. And one is from students, and this is a common question, whether you need to have a business, an economics, or an accounting background to join the BCom or the BCom International. So I'm going to open that to anybody, student or staff, who'd like to answer that one.
Okay, I'll answer it. The short answer is no, you absolutely do not. We teach everything from basics, from scratch, like you've never heard it before. You just need an interest in business, It may help you if you've done accounting initially in the early stages when you're doing accounting, but that's wiped out after a few weeks, and everybody is on par. So we have a lot of students who don't have any business subjects, and they do just as well as the students who do. But my best piece of advice is to choose a program you are genuinely interested in, because you really should make the most of it, and that's more likely to happen if you're really interested in it. So even if you don't study business, if you think it's something you'll really enjoy, go for it. And I don't think that you'd have many regrets, because it's not a disadvantage.
Thanks, Julie. And I can see another question here. Somebody's interested in the summer schools and is asking, do we have a summer school in Japan? That is a fantastic question. And unfortunately, right now, we don't have a summer school in Japan, but it is definitely something that I would be interested in looking into.
I'm very happy to set it up, Aoife.
Absolutely. Dr. Sean Cassidy's background is very much in Japanese as well, so we might be relying on that expertise. But what I can say is that we do have summer schools in China, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, and Canada. They're just some of the locations, but they vary year on year, so opportunities present. But Japan isn't one we have a connection with, but thank you for raising that. That's a great question. And somebody else is interested in the electives and said, are there any restrictions on electives that can be chosen? So Laura or Niall, do you want to jump in there very quickly?
Yeah, the restrictions are like, there are modules that have elective places. They're a broad offer of elective modules. The only restrictions would be capacity, in terms of like the number of students that have an interest in a module, and the places that can be made available based on the room capacity, lecture capacity, tutor capacity, and all that. But
and that it works with your timetable.
Yeah. It does work with, and yes,
that's the important one, that it fits in with your timetable.
And it fits in your timetable. But other than that, there is a breadth. Like there's a lot of choice.
I think there's 2,000 modules overall in UCG, so there is something for everybody, and that happens during our registration period in August and September. So I'm afraid we are coming to the close, but if we didn't get to your question, we have another session at 7 o'clock, which is an Ask Us Anything session, so you can jump on at 7 o'clock. You can also contact the Quinn School directly on our email, quinnschool@ucd.ie. My colleague David Criscadden, who's here on this session as well, David is on that email and will be able to answer any questions. And then I'll also point you to our open day in UCD, which is on the 13th of November. So if you keep an eye on the website, you'll see some details there as well. It's another opportunity to chat to us, to talk through, to ask any questions. So I'll just conclude now for the evening, and thank you very much for participating. And to all the panelists, it's really great to have you with us this afternoon to share your expertise and your experience, particularly to Liam and Dari, who I know are very busy in final year and have a lot of assignments and midterms coming up. So thank you so much. To our panelists and to our participants this evening, I hope you have a lovely evening, and we hope to see you again soon in the Quinn School, if not in September 2022, joining the BCom or BCom International. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening this evening. Take care. Bye-bye.